los campos en la primavera, de colores son los pajarillos que vienen de afuera, de colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Con el pío pío, pío pío pío, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Eso.
Gracias. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome. Good morning, one and all. This is the Namaqua Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and I serve as the minister to this lively, passionate, justice-loving, warm and welcoming group of seekers. So we are an intentionally inclusive church that believes all people are worthy of love. So todos son bienvenidos aquí. All are welcome here. So I think every congregation probably has some service in which they acknowledge those who have gone before, those who have died, because death, as we know, is a part of life. At the congregation I belong to in Oakland, they begin each year with what was called the tolling of the bells. Here at Namaqua, we begin each year with our decade service, in which people of various ages answer the question, tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life, which I think is a great way to start the year. But one of the traditions that I inherited when I came here is that what Namaqua does to celebrate those who have gone before is to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, which is Day of the Dead. So this morning we will continue in that tradition. At the top of the order of service, you may have read the quote that was in the San Francisco Chronicle. He wrote that in an article called The Lively Dead, what color is death? In European cultures, it's usually grim reaper black, but in Mexico, death dresses up in the blazing reds, blues, and yellows of life. In Mexico, life and death exist together. Rather than fear death, we prefer to face it, laugh at it, and celebrate it. So we will do that together today. As Sarah, our Zoomer, has indicated, we will record the service and we'll post it in our worship section on our website for past services. So those who missed the service can catch it later on video. And you will be kept muted, but you'll have an opportunity to unmute during joys and sorrows. Some of you may want to unmute to add to our virtual ofrenda, our altar. And then, of course, at the end of the service, you can stick around for our virtual coffee hour. So I wonder if we have any newcomers, any visitors with us today. If we were together, we would give you a warm welcome by applauding. And if you do consider yourself relatively new to Namaqua and you would like to receive our email blasts each week and our newsletter, the November newsletter just came out, would you please type your name and contact information in the chat box. But for all of you old and new, welcome to our Dia de los Muertos service. And so Peter Schenk is our worship associate this morning. And so Peter and I will share reading the words for our chalice lighting. Peter, you're mute.
We light this flame
As our fervent plea to brighten the dark corners of our hearts.
we hold this flame.
For in it is the promise of warmth for souls grown cold in loss and despair.
We kindle this light
That we might continue to find comfort in its warmth, strength in its light, holiness in its presence.
we follow this light.
That it might illuminate our search for purpose, for meaning and forgiveness.
We light this chalice.
Knowing even as the sacred sparks of the lives of those who we have known and loved before are extinguished, in the ensuing darkness, their lights still will burn bright with all the memory and hope of their all too brief flash across our lives.
We light this flame of life, of love and truth, with a divine promise of healing hearts.
Come, let us worship together. And let's say together our congregational affirmation that we say in unison each week. Say it with me. Love is the spirit of this church and service its call. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For we are grandmother's prayers, we are grandfather's dreamings, we are
And our story this morning by our ministerial intern, Claire, will read Day of the Dead by Tony Johnston and Jeanette Winter.
Above a small town in Mexico, the sun rises like a great marigold. A soft sound comes from a warm kitchen, slap, 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 slap. The children hear it and they wake up. You can see them sleeping. You can see the rooster crowing. You can see the sun rising. Mama is making empanadas, little pastries, fat with meat. The children crowd around. A taste. Wait, says Mama Esperance. Till when? Soon. And she has an arm full of tamales. For weeks, the family has been preparing for this day. Los tios, the uncles, have picked fruit, bright oranges. There they are, picking bright oranges. In the picture, the children have tried to sneak the fruit. Wait, say los tios, Esperance, till when? Soon. You can see the children's little hands reaching out to try to steal an orange. For days, las tias, the aunts, have been grinding dry chilies to make powder. The children have been sniffing the chili powder and sneezing. Wait, says los tias, achoo! The children sneeze. For days, Papa has been visiting the bakery and bringing back bulging bundles. There he is carrying 2 big bags. The children have tried to sneak a peek as to what is in there. Papa says, wait, wait, wait! For days, Mama has baked pan de muertos, bread of the dead. The children have tried to sneak pan de muertos to eat. They ask her, no, Mama says, not one crumb. They're reaching out to grab this beautiful bread. For nights, all the family has been making tamales for this day. The children have tried to sneak tamales to eat. Esperance, they say. There are the kids underneath the kitchen table looking at the big bowl full of tamales, so hungry. Today, Papa has cut up long wads of cana, sugar cane. The children try to sneak the cane pieces to suck the sweetness out. Wait. There you can see their family's altar with pictures. There are candles, there are marigolds and incense and the sugar cane on top. Today, las tias brew a sauce of chocolate and chili, a mole. They put chicken in, stirring and stirring again. The children try to sneak the mole just to taste. Esperanza, the aunts keep saying. There they are sniffing the beautiful smells of the mole. The children come from the market with loads of marigolds. In every room bloom marigold bouquets like little glowing suns. There's a house that looks like it's just overflowing with marigolds. Now night has come and there's an angel dropping stars out of a bag. The family gathers all the things they've made for this day and they go out into the night. Families from all the houses come carrying all the things they have made, carrying marigolds as bright as suns and candles like the stars. And you can see many, many families carrying these things, walking together. The little procession goes walking through the street, walking over the hill, walking to the graveyard where their loved ones lie. They go dropping a path of petals for the spirits to find their way. There's a beautiful path of petals that goes all the way to the outside of the book. Here they are all walking. You see them all walking into the graveyard together with bright colors and angels dancing and marigolds and candles. And here they are in the graveyard, sitting down on their relatives' graves, bringing candles and marigolds and children and skulls and a lot of joy. The family comes to the graves of los abuelos, the grandparents. There they place salt and water in small bowls, and they place all the things they have made. They sing and they dance. And they remember los abuelos. Must we still wait? Ask the children. No, says Mama. Eat, eat, eat. And there they are eating so many yummy things. Papa unwraps the bundles. Sugar skulls. The children squeal and eat the treat. Mama slices pan de muertos. Everyone tastes the sweetbread. One child bites his. Ay, ay, ay. He finds the tiny, skinny skeleton Mama baked inside. There's a kid really excited and more happy hands holding these sugar candy skulls. Now it is late, and the family gathers what is left of all the things they have brought. They gather platters and jugs and jars, and they gather their sleeping children. Upon the graves, they leave marigolds, and then they go walking home, carrying candles like stars.
Thank you, Claire. And we now take time to share our personal joys and sorrows. If you would like to share a joy or sorrow, or let's start with anyone who has a birthday or an anniversary, if you could put your name into the chat box so that we can wish you happy birthday, happy anniversary. Anybody? I'll start out with a joy, which is that my sweetie, Francie Liefert, is going to come for a visit this week. So I'm super excited about that. And our new tradition is that after each person speaks, we will acknowledge it by saying we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. So is there anyone else who would like to share something? Fran, you old lady. By the way, happy birthday. What? Unmute. Unmute. There we go.
Oh, yes. I had a wonderful, wonderful birthday, and I have a joy to share. We have had an adoption within our family. Tim Black has adopted our little dachshund puppy that we had named Biscotti, and Biscotti has a new name. It's Mario. And Tim has already gone to PetSmart twice to buy more things for the puppy, and it's a wonderful companion for him, and it makes our lives much easier.
So he's a 5-month-old little puppy, huh?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I met him the other day and he's darling.
he really is cute. Yeah.
So for you, Fran and Bob, and for Tim and for Baguette and Biscotti, now Mario, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm not seeing hands. Oh, Curtis and Donna, tell us, you have some exciting news? Unmute and share with us.
Yeah, a couple of things, but the biggest one is that
we're expecting our first child.
Whoa!
Yeah, so we're she's
Oh.
due to be born the first week of February of next year. So
Yep. And we're having a little girl.
yeah.
Oh, Donna and Curtis. And what do your Great Danes think of that?
They are very
adapting.
And excited. They love all the new stuff going on.
Yeah. They're a little unsure they can't go into the nursery as much anymore, but
they can't fit in the bed. But
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But we're very excited.
Yep. So that's kind of a big one.
Yep.
That is huge. Did you say, do you have some more to share before we acknowledge it?
I mean, like the only like big news is I've made a transition into taking a data science boot camp and moving out of the doctoral program. I'm about halfway through the boot camp, and assuming I survive the rest of it, I should be prepared to get a job as a entry-level data scientist at basically any tech company here or remotely across the country or the world, which is a huge deal because I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do with some of the education I've had and like experiences I've had over the last couple of years, and this seemed like a natural next step, and also fit the timeline of kind of trying to make sure I had some sort of career lined up by the time our little nugget arrives. So yeah, that's the big news. We're career transition, and we're having our first kiddo.
First kiddo.
So
Wow. Well, congratulations, you two. You sound very, very happy.
We are.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
are.
Well, and so to you, we say, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you, and we'll care for your little nugget once she arrives. All right, and Nicole.
Hi, I'm just super happy with my new doggo. He's doing really well. I don't know if I told you guys that he was called Apollo, but every time I said Apollo, I thought of Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies. So I didn't want to see Sylvester Stallone's face in my head every time I called my dog. So his new name is October, Toby for short, and we are doing very well.
Oh, that's so great. We've got a theme going here with dogs and happiness. Those are joys. Well, so to you in October, Nicole, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. And Kathy Hartman.
Well, I have a joy that my brother is visiting from the state of Washington. The reason he's visiting is it is on Thursday, it was the birthday of his son who took his life in January. And so his family is still trying to heal from all of that. And so he's here on a visit to help his other children process.
Oh yeah. So Kathy, to you and to Steve and the rest of your family, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. And I'll read from Rochelle, who has a sorrow. And the reason I'm reading it is because her mic's not very reliable, but your grandfather passed away this month. He lived to 90 and did well on his own up until the last few months. And so for you in your sorrow, Rochelle, we hear you, we hold you, we care for you. Brenda. Last Sunday, Brenda received word that her dear friend Sean unexpectedly passed away. He had 3 teenage boys and a lovely wife. The funeral is on Wednesday in Parker, and Way and Brenda are going. And I remember, Brenda, you said that he was young, he's your age. I'm so sorry. So Brenda, we hear you, we hold you, we care for you. Elaine, would you like to unmute and share?
I have a joy to share. Last week, I visited my 2 sisters in Michigan, which I haven't seen for 2 years, and I never go that long. But it was a wonderful visit, and it was concerning being in the airport and all, but we're all healthy and we're all happy, and it's all good. But always dog things. My kitties missed me. Every time I sit down, they're on my lap.
Well, welcome.
That's a joy
home.
to be home again too.
Who is? What was that last thing you said?
I said it's a joy to be back home again.
Okay. Well, we join your cats in being happy that you're back. So Elaine, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. So Rebecca, do you have something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I was just going to type in, I sure would like to see everyone's face.
Oh, so for people who's you just see the names.
Yeah, and I understand, but it'd be nice to see everyone.
I know. Well, and we're really hoping that we can meet in person again. We're going to be working on that. And so Tina. Oh, Nicole's saying she doesn't have a camera, but Tina is a newcomer. And Tina, I'm excited you're going to be in our Building Your Own Theology class. And so do you want to unmute and share with us?
Hi, I'm Tina. This is my second time joining you all. I guess I have a sorrow to share. I have been sick for most of the month of October, and I just got diagnosed with a sinus infection, and I'm on antibiotics for that. But I'm really struggling with, I have a salaried profession, and it doesn't stop when I stop. And I'm just really feeling the stress of not being able to keep up with my job. So I'm just praying that I start to feel some relief soon, and I appreciate the prayers and support today. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I hope the antibiotics help too soon. So Tina, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. I'm glad that you joined us. And Mim Neal shares that Barbara Fleming is back in print. So she had her column, which she's had for many, many years, back in the Coloradan, the Fort Collins paper. So thanks for sharing that. And Barbara, we're so glad you're back in your writing self. So we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. I don't see anyone else, and so we'll end by acknowledging that beyond this group of people, there are people who are having both joys and sorrows, and also there may be some of you who are here with us today who have something that maybe is too tender to speak out loud. And so for all those other joys and sorrows, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. So if you'll repeat after me, in our joy and in our sorrow, we are not alone. You know how Namakwa has half-plate recipients each quarter. Before we take our collection for today, I would like to introduce Kathy Hartman, who is our Namakwa member who is arranging the half-plate ministries, and then Barbara Lambert, who's with us today representing last quarter's recipient, the Martin Luther King Jr. Loveland events.
So as you know, we have a long-standing tradition of sharing our half plate and sharing our Sunday collection plate. And so for the months of July, August, and September, we collected double this amount, but we are giving half of our collection of $1,493 to the Martin Luther King Jr. Events Committee. I'm going to send this virtual check over to Barbara Lambert, who's going to tell us, okay, there you go. Tell us a little bit about what you might do with a little infusion of some contributions. So if you can unmute Barbara and let us know. Unmute Barbara.
It is. Sorry, I had to find the button.
You got it.
On behalf of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Loveland Events, thank you very much for the privilege of being Namakwa's last quarter half plate recipient. We are very excited at the prospect of what your donation will help make possible. We hope to infuse those monies into improving Black History Month programming for the community, student outreach projects for both winter, spring, summer, and fall of next year, voter education programs in 2022, both historical and current, since we'll be having a voting year next year, Juneteenth, and of course our annual MLK holiday and community celebration that's held on the evening of the MLK holiday in January. And those are just to name a few. Since your donation is so generous, we can probably do more. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Spend wisely and come back again.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. Thanks, Kathy. And you may know that Namakwa has played a huge role in both creating and sustaining the Dr. King Events group here in Loveland.
Absolutely.
Very proud. And for our offering this quarter, our recipient is the Food Bank for Larimer County. There's a donate button that our Zoomer Sarah will put in the chat box, but also remember that you can still always send checks in to the church and just put down in the subject line, collection, donation, maybe Larimer Food Bank. And so while we are receiving the collection, for our offertory, we have Spirit of Life in both Spanish and English. And to bless our offering, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings, to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice as we work together to grow beloved community. So thank you for your generosity. And now for the heart of today's service, we are going to build an altar together. So these days, you've probably noticed that the days are growing shorter. It's getting colder, the nights are growing longer. And so our thoughts may be turning to people in our lives who have died, our dear companions who once were part of our life. We miss them. It's kind of bittersweet. We celebrate that they lived, and we also remember them. And sometimes our heart aches because we wish that they were with us again. But in the spirit of Dia de los Muertos, today we will focus on the two sides of the loss, both the joy and the sorrow. And so don't push your feelings away. This may be a service where you want to have some Kleenex, if you have some tears, but also I hope that we can have some smiles and some laughter as we celebrate those who have gone before us. So first, we will do a virtual ofrenda, an altar. You may remember that the last couple of weeks, we've invited you to meet with Claire in person. Some people you'll see gathered in our sanctuary, and he recorded their memories. And then afterwards, we'll give you an opportunity if you wanted to speak the names and perhaps show some photographs of someone who you want to put on our altar, our virtual altar. So Claire, thank you for creating this video. And so Sarah, go ahead and let her roll.
I'm Vicki Clark, and I bring today a bowl of beautiful colored leaves representing 11 loved ones that I have lost since January 1st. And I would just like to read their names as I place a leaf on the altar. First is for my cousin, Nancy Mathai, and then 3 people from the church of my childhood back in Mexico, Indiana, Mary Laverne Baber, her sister, Pat. They died within 3 minutes or 15 minutes of each other, and Artis Reed. And then 2 people from the former church where I was a member for many years before I became a Unitarian. Skip Cowers, Claire Childress, and a neighbor, Harry Hemstreet. And then 2 people from the PFLAG organization that were dear to my heart, Bob Coddington, Merlin Logan, and from our own beloved community here at Namaqua, Glenda Bell and Joe Beebe. And I miss them all.
So, hi, I'm Sally Henry, and these are my parents, Deb and Russ Henry. They died way too young to be of counsel to me at this stage of my life, but I think of them so often, and I think I could really use their counsel. So I love you, I miss you, and I hope all is well.
Okay, so here we are at Dia de los Muertos again, and I bring my husband, David, who passed away 13 and a half years ago now. And I still miss him every single day. And I think about, so he's sitting here in Utah in front of some ruins that we went to, that we hiked to. They're not on anybody's map. You know, he was a caver, he was a hiker, he was a very outdoorsy person. He loved to do woodworking. And I just, you know, miss all those little things that went along with being a part of his life. And this time of year, his birthday is November 25th, which was the 1 month countdown to Christmas. And so it was always a very joyous time of the year. And so as I remember him, I try to think of that joy. So I lost my mother in October to COVID, and I didn't bring a picture because I didn't have one handy. So I would take a leaf because she loved to decorate the house with all kinds of natural materials and plastic flowers too, but every holiday was a celebration that merited the house being decorated to the nines, and she also loved yard ornaments, so often they were coordinated with the holidays too. But she didn't suffer a great deal when she died, so that was good, and she was 93 years old, and I think she felt that she had lived a good life, and she was ready. It would have been great if all of us could have been there. My sister was able to be with her, and so she wasn't alone, but it was a different kind of passing than we might have hoped for her, and maybe she hoped for herself. So I hope she's doing okay wherever she's at this point. The hardest one happened at the end of January, and that was my dear sweet nephew Jonathan, and you can just see what a bright light he is. He took his life, and if you had asked anyone in my family who was the least likely person to take their life, it would have been Jonathan. He was the person that lit up the room when he walked in. He made everybody feel good. He just was a bright light on this planet. He was the smartest guy in the room, the funniest guy in the room, the cutest guy in the room. And one of my great memories of him was at our annual summer Blockstock party. He'd often either fly in from wherever he was to be at the party, or if he lived nearby, he came up. And he was sitting on the front porch with 3 of my old lady friends. I walk around to the front of the house, and there's Jonathan sitting on the couch, 2 women on either side of him and another one in the chair, and they all have a drink in their hands and they're all laughing. And he is entertaining these people. He could have been with 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 20-year-olds, beautiful women, and he's sitting there entertaining 3 of my probably 60-year-old friends. And that was just Jonathan. He took advantage of the moment, and he was a joy to be with in this world. So it's a big loss. And I think Nathan would like to say a little bit about Jonathan also, so I'll turn it over to him.
And I think not having him around has been extremely difficult. I don't know what else to say. He was just a good person. His jokes were never funny. He had a way with smoking cigarettes and letting me have them. And it was actually funny at a Chatham Lauren's wedding. Jonathan and I were standing next to each other on the porch of where we were staying, and one of my other cousins came out and was like, "What are you guys looking over the railing for?" And I can't remember if it was me or if it was Jonathan said, "We're looking at the rabbits," which there were no bunny rabbits. And then Jonathan made the mistake that he snuck under the cigarette that he just started smoking, that he wasn't gonna finish, to me to finish off. And my cousin immediately got angry and was like, "I'm gonna go tell Aunt Kathy that you're smoking cigarettes." And I was like, yeah, like she would ever give a crap about it. So it was definitely a terrible loss when I found out about it. But he was a great dude, like Mom said, and that's all I have to say.
So thank you again for those of you who shared, and Claire for putting that together. Those of you who have been in our physical building before probably recognize that the ofrenda was in our alcove with the hanging of the tree behind us, behind the altar. And so one of these days we'll be able to see that in person. A tree is one of our symbols. So as we share our stories under our imaginary story tree, I invite others of you who would like to share to, I guess, put your name in the chat box and I will call on you, and you're welcome to unmute and share the memories of the person or people you'd like to lift up into the loving embrace of this community, put on our virtual ofrenda. And also if you have any photographs or mementos, you can hold them up in front of your camera. So we'll begin with Marcia Lewis.
Good morning. Had a couple losses recently.
Oh yeah, it's going to be colder today.
John, but my sister-in-law's, or my sister's sister-in-law passed away suddenly after surgery about a month ago. And we still celebrate the death of my niece just before the pandemic started. So we were not able to have a celebration of life, but she was full of life, even though she died of colon cancer at age 42. And there's one picture of her, I don't know. And she was crazy and fun and a nanny. And when she was in hospice, there were several hundred people that came to visit her. So we were glad that this happened before the pandemic. So she was able to be celebrated, and we miss her. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcia. I think maybe after everyone shares, and let's say this first for those who shared on the video, let's say together, we will remember them. So we will remember them, Vicki and Sally, Kathy and Nathan, and now you, Marcia, for the memories that you shared. And Barbara Lambert put in the chat that she's remembering her mother and father. So we will remember them. And Mim, would you like to unmute?
It's hard when Herbie's sitting on the mouse.
Herbie's her cat.
Yes, and he's still alive, and I'm glad. This picture, I don't know how well you can see it.
You can see it.
Prized possessions. The little kid being held is my dad.
Oh, wow.
And his parents, and his dad's parents, and his mom's parents, and his mom's siblings. And I knew all of them except the great grandfathers. So I knew everyone in this photograph. And they became part of the fabric of my life and who I am. And I honor them. I have an ancestor room in my house where I have photos of relatives. And I have to show you one more picture, which I really need to get a better frame for. I knew my father's family better than my mom's, but in this picture, you see me when I was considerably younger, and my mom and my maternal grandmother. We were a fabulous trio, and I love them, and I miss them, and I honor them. Thank you.
We will remember them. And Peter Schenk. Peter, there we go.
Yeah. Okay, three quick things. These are my maternal grandparents. My grandmother, we always called Nana. And but unfortunately, my grandfather died before my mother was even married, so I never get to meet him. These are my parents some years ago, and I miss them. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then finally, behind me is this fabric thing, which shows the house where we had the men's retreats in the Bay Area. For me, I went there like 12 consecutive years. And I really miss it. And I'm sad because I sort of rejoined the group in San Jose, at least via Zoom. And they told me that they're no longer going to have retreats. So I'm kind of sad about that.
Hmm. So Peter, we will remember them. And Jerry Sokolowski.
Oh, can you see this?
Let's see.
Well, hold it up a little bit. Hold it up higher. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we can see.
Very well. But anyway, these are my parents, Bob and Bertie Young, and I've been missing them lately. We had 2 years ago this week, we had a 99th birthday party for my mom. And then
Oh.
she died about 3 months later, but it was a really great party and it was a good send-off for her. So both my parents lived into their late 90s. And so they had good lives, but no matter how long they live, I still miss them, like everybody else. So I still miss them, and I love them, and that's all.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, we will remember them.
Thank you.
And Donna Popill, soon to be mother, misses her folks, Irene and Charlie. So Donna, we will remember them. And Fran Green. Fran typed in that I'm remembering my friend Van. Our friendship started when we were 3. And then I was with him when he died several years ago. So let's see the picture that you're showing, Fran. There, oh, yeah. Darling. Oh, so Fran, we will remember him. And Sarah Suriani is remembering her mom and dad and her nephews, Connor and Tyler, and cousin Jill and her grandparents. So Sarah, we will remember them. And Nicole Gilbert, remembering her grandparents, Graham and Pop. She says, my dad and all my fur babies, especially Poppy, and also Scott, David, John, and Todd. So Nicole, we will remember them. Janin says, I remember my good friend Diane Michaels. Some of you got to meet before she passed away. You all would have loved her spirit and wisdom had she been able to be part of Namaqua for longer. She was a real friend and treasure and loved the fall, so I try to appreciate these beautiful days for her. Yeah, I've been thinking of Diane as well. We did her memorial service, so we will remember her. And Curtis, the soon-to-be father, is remembering my mother, Alita, who just passed away last December. We will remember her. And then Elaine, through Sarah, is saying, I'm remembering my mom, Angeline Pastula Zuba, and my dear friend and hiking buddy, Sharon Reef. I've also been thinking about. We will remember them. And Marion Cox. I'm remembering 2 neighbors who died this year. One directly across the street, who was calling on me regularly to run errands for him and help him with medical issues. And then my neighbor to the west died quickly a week after his sons moved him closer to them in Utah. So Marion, we will remember them. And Barbara Lambert, do you want to unmute and share?
Oh. Okay, so the first picture is of my mother with my son, Eric. Is it too reflective or can you see it?
Oh, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay. She was notorious for her 4th of July parties with mass quantities of food, music, diving contests, And you could also bring your pets. So we always had a variety of dogs running around underfoot and enjoying themselves also. We lost her in 2008. And this is a picture of my father. Okay, on top of Mosquito Pass in the early 60s. He climbed it backwards because his car did not have a low enough gear ratio. So he drove his American Rambler station wagon backwards from the not the Leadville side, the other side, the easier side, backwards in his Rambler American station wagon. While he left us at the bottom of the hill in the middle of nowhere until he returned. Thank you.
All right. Well, Barbara, we will remember them. And Kathy shares that she's thinking, I think, as are many of us, of Nancy Kane, a bright light in this congregation, and also Nancy's husband, Don Cook. Yes, we will remember them. And Sarah, remembering our dear Glenda Bell, a beautiful soul. We are all so fortunate to have had her in our lives. And Sarah just recently returned from Yellowstone, where she got to see the spot where Glenda and Glenda's ashes were scattered. So we will remember her. And Shirley Rawson shares, I'm remembering my friend Viri, who died at age 49 of cancer, leaving 2 young children and a grieving husband. We will remember her. I don't, does anybody else have anything to share? So if you can use your imaginations, just imagine a brightly covered table with photographs on it and the beautiful leaves and marigolds and some sugar skulls that the kids would have put on. So hopefully next year in person, building an altar. So those who lived before us have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living. And we will remember them. Oh, so we've got Claire asking. Claire, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just had this impulse that I thought might be fun to share. I was recently doing a workshop with nurses on resiliency and caring for yourself. And we had a moment in the workshop for, rather than saying amen at the end of a blessing, we said, wow. And I just wondered if we might have a moment now where I could just put on a tiny piece of music, and I'll just invite you for in the spirit of celebrating all these people and in the spirit of being alive and the gifts that they've been in all of our lives, to, whenever you want, just throw your hands up in the air, and for all these people, just say, wow.
Well, let's unmute and do that. So everybody unmute, and we'll add this piece perhaps to our tradition. When you're ready, celebrate all of those who were in our lives. We say, wow.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Claire. That's what we needed. Wow. Don't we have the best intern ever? Thank you. So would you like to mute again before we invoke chaos? And Peter and I do have a reading that's a little more bittersweet. So Peter, you want to unmute and we'll end with our reading, We Remember Them.
Now, okay. And the rising of the sun and it's going down, we remember them.
In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them.
In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them.
In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them.
In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them.
In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them.
When we are weary and need of strength, we remember them.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them.
When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them.
So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are part of us, and we remember them.
Now extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the truth of light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And I offer this blessing to the great mystery of life and of death. Hold us as we remember those we have loved and those who have loved us. May our gratitude sparkle in our lives, and may our tears lubricate our souls. Help us know that we are not alone in our grieving, and help us also to come to that peaceful place in which we take what we learned from those who have gone before us into our own lives. Remind us that we too are mortal, and that the only enduring legacy we leave is the love that shines through our lives. And so now our closing song, Spreading Love. All right, so that's a great song to send us off. Spreading love. Well, we can unmute one more time because I love what you added, Claire. So let's unmute one more time and spread love by saying, wow!
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 Wow! Wow! Wow!
Well, you know us. Our vision is to radiate love, peace, and justice. So for announcements today, just a couple. One is that actually on Thursday, we're alternating now social sisterhood with meditation. So social sisterhood was last week. That means meditation will be this Thursday at 10 in person. And then next week's service will be Kristallnacht by Fred Schreckinger and Janet Gillette. And it's called Kristallnacht Never Again.
Yeah.
And I want to also encourage, well, I guess yesterday, Doug, thank you for the transitions class. I haven't heard how it went, but I'm really glad in this time of transition to have such a timely workshop. And then next Sunday, we'll begin our first version of the introduction of building your own theology, which I will teach or facilitate for the rest of this year. So we do have enough people signed up to run the class, and I want to encourage any of you who are interested in joining me and some of the other Namaqua members to build your own theology and to clarify what it is that you do believe and not just what you don't believe. So if you're interested, there's always a way in the weekly email blast to just click on a link and you can sign up. And there are some other classes too. So that's our seminary for the laity. And let's hope that some of you will stick around for our virtual coffee hour. So thank you, Sarah, for Zooming for us today. Thank you, Peter, for being worship associate. Thank you, Claire, for the story, for the video, and for your wow. And thanks to all of you for coming today. Take care.